Good morning. Today is, I believe, February 16th. It's President's Day here in the US, and that means I have off work and I can talk to you guys. It has been about 2.5 weeks since I've made a video, and I think it's time to share some of my progress. So if you are new here, let me introduce myself. My name is Kristen. I go by Knit and Craft on the internet, Instagram, whatever, Ravelry. You can find me at the links in my description below. And I am a knitter primarily, but I also spin, crochet, make cards, I don't know, all the things. And also garden, as you can kind of see by the mass chaos in the background right now. I'm starting my seedlings. So I got my seed trays all set up and I'm ready to rock and roll on that. I come to you from Baltimore County, Maryland, where I live with my partner, Mr. Craft, and our dog, Nala. She is an 11-year-old golden retriever, and she sometimes makes an appearance, but more than likely not make an appearance, and she will be heard from the next room where she tries to body slam all of her toys for no apparent reason. All right, so let's get into the nitty part of this podcast. Today, we're going to follow the traditional podcast format. I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing, my works in progress, because I don't have any truly finished objects. And then maybe we'll gloss over my goals because I didn't really get to that in my last podcast episode. So hopefully this will be a shorter one and very entertaining because I do have quite a bit of progress on a lot of different things, but I haven't finished anything. Okay, so this is my clay sweater by Ozetta, who I believe is Haley Smedley. All of this will be on the screen or in the description, or probably both. So this is my clay sweater. I knit this out of West Yorkshire Spinners BFL Fleece DK in the color 002, which I believe is light brown. I really like this yarn. I don't find it itchy or scratchy at all for the most part. Today my skin is very dry and it was irritating me a little bit, so I just put a t-shirt under it and now I'm perfectly fine. I wear this thing constantly and you can see that there is quite a bit of wear on the sweater. It needs to be depilled. I have had this for 2 years, maybe? Something along those lines, and I have never depilled it. I've washed it 2 or 3 times now, and it's something I almost always wear over things, so I don't feel like it needs to be washed continuously. But I do think the next time I wash it, I will try and depill at least under this arm, like my arms. That's where I get the most pills. I love this thing. I will always love this thing as long as it holds up, I think. And I don't believe I made any modifications. I think I made it completely to pattern. But anyway, very comfy. I'm having a very comfy, cozy day at home where I'm just gonna knit a lot. It's pretty gray outside. And yeah, I just wanted to be cozy. So let's get started. I think I'm gonna just move all of my project bags to me and we'll just randomly pick one. We're gonna start off with something that I kinda consider a finished object, and that is because it's attached to an actual finished object. So I think the last time that I spoke about this was the last podcast episode. I had spun all of my singles. I did let that rest, make a chain ply ball, and then I plied it together pretty much immediately. I took it off, I washed it, I thwacked it, I let it sit. I was going for a sport weight. I don't know if you can see this, but I definitely did not get a sport weight. I got a fingering weight. And that's my default spin. I spin very, very, very thin. I don't know why. I can't really help it. It's something that I just instinctually do. And with BFL, it's even worse than merino or Cordale. For whatever reason, I just spin so thinly. So this came out to be a fingering weight, and that's okay. I am using this to knit the Jaunty. So let me show you the front. Well, I'll show you all of it first, and then maybe get a close-up of how is that looking. I decided to stripe, just a brief overview. I decided to stripe two different braids together. So this blue, brown, tan color down here, that's Clockwork. And then it moves into this purpley tan color, brownish color, and that is Bruiser. So I'm just loving the like micro striping within the stripes. And I think this is really nice. So let's see, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. I've started my 9th. So in total in this, I have 24 stripes. This is getting quite large. So I don't know how many stripes I'm going to do, at least 10 or 11 before I start my decreases. So this is how it's looking. I did from here to here while I watched all of the Heated Rivalry, because I could not resist any longer. Everybody was telling me how good it was, so I had to watch. And it was indeed very good. I enjoyed it completely. And maybe we could talk about that at the end, but it was very cool. So this is my finished spin for the Jaunty Shawl. It's 8 ounces of fiber. It came out to be exactly 223 grams. So almost exactly 8 ounces. Right? 115? Is it that right? I don't actually know. Maybe I'll cut that out. But anyway, this is for my Jaunty Shawl. I hope to make this my focus project after I finish the next thing I'm going to show you. So the thing that got the most work for me over these past few weeks has been my Midland cardigan. This is my second attempt at a Midland cardigan. For those of you that have been around for a while, you know that I attempted this last year around the same time, and I used the exact same yarn. So let me hold it up and show you. The only thing I've done differently this time, maybe I can show you that fabric. Nice little pickup line. The only thing I've done this time around that's different is I was making the size 4 because I was unhappy with the size 3. And now that I'm looking at it and I have been knitting it, I definitely could have gotten away with the size 3. Where I went wrong last time is that I was not careful. And I went with the size 4 millimeter needle, knowing I'm a tight knitter, knowing that that was a whole half size needle smaller than what the pattern called for. So I don't really know where I was going with that. I'm pretty much on gauge with a 4.5 millimeter needle. So I really should have knit the size 3 in a 4.5 millimeter needle. But again, alas, it's fine. I will put this on for you guys, but I will do it in B-roll. So I don't have to like get up and shift, and then the video is different when I come back. Anyway, I should have had this sleeve done by now, but I got distracted with another cast on, which we will talk about shortly. Anyway, this is the Midland Cardigan by Laura Penrose, and I am pretty happy with it. It does fit this time around. I have made no modifications to the body whatsoever. It is completely to pattern, but I did make pretty huge modifications to the sleeve. So my row gauge was a little bit off, and I knew that going in. So what I did was decided to add more length. But firstly, I think for my size, the pattern recommends you pick up 32 stitches per side, so 64 total. And I picked up 36 stitches. So that means 8 extra stitches, 72 total. And I also decided to knit extra just plain without any decreases because my upper bicep is quite wide. I wish I could tell you I'm super muscular. I am not. It's just part of my body structure. I have wider shoulders and also a typically wider bicep. So I didn't want to do the decreases right off. I didn't want it to be too snug because I really don't like sleeves that are snug on my biceps. Okay, so I did 35 rows of plain knitting before starting my decreases, which was significantly more, I believe, than what the pattern recommended, at least 10 extra rows more. I then followed the decreases in pattern. I added an extra decrease round because I still needed more length. I do think I just have longer arms. And then during the first knit row of the cuff, I added an extra decrease. So I was only off by 1 stitch at that point, I believe, 1 or 2 stitches from the stitch count I was supposed to have. Adding that extra decrease in there really did help me, or extra 2 decreases in there really did help me. So yeah, I really am starting to like this. I will try to finish this sleeve today while I have some knitting time because I'm really not doing anything. And then I will pick up for the button band. So this is my focus project. This is the one I really, really do want to get done. And I think that I'm going to be able to get that done this month, which it'll be nice to have a finish again because I think I've only had one or two finishes this year. And I do attribute that to the way I did things this time around. I do attribute that to the way I did things this time around. I cast on a bunch of projects all at once and I was working on them individually. Whereas generally I'm a pretty monogamous knitter. I might have 2 or 3 things going on at one time, but I'm focusing on one specific project at a time. And what I was doing before this week was I would knit a little on one thing, knit a little on another. And I just don't find that that is super enjoyable to me. I like to get into the rhythm of a project. So I do have a lot of things cast on right now, and I actually want to cast on more, but I'm going to focus on one thing at a time. So right now it is my Midland cardigan. And after I finish my Midland and something else, which you haven't seen yet, I will go back to my jaunty. Okay. Moving on to the thing you haven't seen before is a sock. And that is because Sock Madness has started. So for those of you that don't know what Sock Madness is, it is a sock knitting competition. It's hosted on the knitting pattern site. Well, not just knitting, but just knitting and crochet pattern site, Ravelry. And it's an international sock knitting competition. You could probably say it's a speed knitting competition because the premise is a March Madness style bracket elimination where you qualify for the competition by knitting a pair of socks to specifications within 2 weeks. If you make that qualifier, you are then sorted into teams and you will compete against your teammates until only one person is remaining, and that person will be the representative from your team to then compete in the final round. I know it's a little confusing, but if you're interested, I will link the Ravelry group below so you could read through the rules and kind of just how the competition works. Signups are not open anymore for this year, but this happens every year. I believe this is like 20 something years. Maybe it is the 20th year this year. So this is the newspaper socks, And it is a pattern by, I believe it's CowFromMars. These little, I don't know if you can see them properly, but these lines right here, the pearl bumps, those are going to be green, but it's using a technique, and I forget the name of it, but it's something I've done before, where you kind of use a crochet hook and you chain up those pearl bumps, so in and out and pulling a chain through. It looks like a knit stitch because it's a chain, but it's done after the fact, or in this case, I'm going to do the back of the leg before I finish the heel, and then I will do the front before I put on the toe. Not much to say about this. I'm using scraps. This is probably not my first choice of colors, but let me see if I can put my hand in here and kind of spread them out and show you. That's what the pattern is looking like. I'm fairly comfortable with stranded knitting, so I do think this looks pretty good. This year, you have to have sock blockers to compete, and that's something I do have, but I do think that that will make judging a little bit easier for them. All of this information will be in my description and in maybe on the screen as well, as I tend to do. I don't know. I do think that these are really, really nice, and I do appreciate that the competition lately has been using qualifiers that are really nice and wearable. A lot of the time, this competition kind of pushes the bounds of sock knitting. Interesting constructions, very complex motifs, sometimes not super duper wearable socks, but very, very cool and very technical. But the qualifiers for the last like 4 or 5 years have been extremely wearable. So I do appreciate that. And I think that these are really lovely. And they're the reason why I have not worked or have not finished my Midland sleeve. So the pattern for these dropped last night or yesterday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And I cast on and got through 2.5-ish of the leg chart repeats. And I believe I need 3 of those. So I am going to finish the 3rd repeat and then start the heel, probably finish the heel, and then go back to my Midland. That's kind of what I'm feeling. I can knit a pair of stranded colorwork socks in 3 or 4 days if I really focus. But I have 2 weeks for this qualifying round, so I'm not super pressed for time. We'll see how it shakes out, but so far I'm liking these. And I could see myself knitting these again in completely different colors. Like, I don't know, red, white, and blue might be fun, or just go super dark colors like a dark green, a black, and maybe like a gold color and go for like a tartan-esque or even a navy. That would be really nice. I don't know. So I might knit these again. I do enjoy the pattern. It's going really quickly. It's really intuitive, and it looks quite impressive in my opinion. So that's that. The next thing I'm going to show you is just a really quick update on my Paul cardigan. I really didn't have much to show the last time I showed this. I think I only had one saddle done. One of these. One saddle done. And since then, I have knit the other one. I've joined them together. I did not Kitchener it. It was a 3-needle bind off, I believe. I've picked up the back, worked the short rows, and then also picked up for this front panel. I still need to pick up for the other front panel, but this is definitely on the back burner. It's not really sparking joy right now, and I have other things I'd like to finish. So I've put this in timeout, and this will probably be the last time I talk about it for this quarter. This is definitely going to be a Q2 project, and I'm totally fine with that. And then this is my desk knitting. So I do work on this when I'm at my desk in a meeting where I need to pay attention, but I don't need to write. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen all that often anymore. But when it does happen, I have this. This is my coming soon sweater, and I think the last time you saw it, I had not joined, or I had not split for sleeves. So this is what it's looking like now. It's such an interesting texture all over, and I'm really enjoying it. Let me spread out these stitches just a little bit. Obviously, I'm on a very small needle because I'm super lazy, and it does make it a little bit easier to move it around when it's on a smaller cable. So this is the coming soon sweater. I have split for sleeves, and I'm starting to work on the body. I would say that's about 3.25 inches, 3.5 inches so far. And I will probably knit this to be 15 inches long. Can't remember what the pattern says, but anyway, this is not a focus project. This is not something that I expect will go very quickly because it is this half brioche stitch or this brioche tuck stitch. It's quite slow, at least for me, it's quite slow. And I am still enjoying the process. I'm knitting this with Juniper Moon Farms Patagonia Organic Merino in the color Indigo, and I think it's just a really lovely color. I'm really liking the blues right now. I feel very drawn to blue, and I think it's because it is so gray and kind of dreary outside, which does not really bother me, but it makes me crave blue, blue skies. So I'm liking this. I think this will be a really lovely addition to my wardrobe when I finish it, but I'm not pressed to get this done. It might happen this quarter. It also might happen next quarter, and that's okay. So I'm not going to show you my double date. I have not made a decision on that, but I guess I have made a decision. I've made a decision to not work on that right now. It's also going to be a quarter 2, a quarter 3, or a quarter 4 project. I would like to have another double date. I do think I'm going to use the 2 colors I showed you on the last podcast for that to make another double date, but I'm not set in stone on it. And it's not sparking like ultimate joy right now. So I'm going to focus on my Midland, my Jaunty, and my qualifying Sock Madness newspaper socks. That is all I'm currently working on. But my friends over at a Naughty Mess podcast, Megan, has a Discord, and she is hosting a clay sweater knit along. Obviously, I like the clay sweater. I have a clay sweater, and it is lovely. And I have always kind of wanted a clay tee. Now, this clay make-along is open to kind of just whatever you want to do. If you want to just do an Ozetta pattern, join the Discord and follow along. And so I really, really, really want to cast on the clay tee. I have this awful yarn. Well, not awful. Let me go get it. So this yarn is one of my favorite yarns. It is discontinued. This is Alta Truth by Alta Yarns. It is I would consider it a sport weight, but they market it as a DK, and it does plump up just a bit when you knit with it. So it could be a light DK. I was going to knit the size 5 in the clay tee using 3.75 millimeter needles. So that should give me with my gauge, between a 3 and a 4 measurement wise, which is just fine for me. And I really want to use this yarn up. The only issue with this yarn is it's a terrible color for my skin complexion. It's awful. I got this on clearance at my local yarn shop, and the deal was too good to pass up. I think it was like 70% off. Again, it was one of my favorite yarns back in the day. And I haven't used it because the color is terrible. But what I plan to do is knit it up, and then I will over dye it. I have both a really deep burgundy color and a black in Dharma dyes for wool. And I think either of those would be really nice. I could also see myself dyeing this like a deep teal color, kind of like what I was knitting in the Paul cardigan. Either way, a darker color, but something still really nice. I'm not going to wear a wool t-shirt in the summer. You're just never going to catch me in a wool t-shirt in the summer. So I'm thinking more like springtime, fall time for this. So it's perfectly fine that it's made out of 100% wool. And I am excited to see what is happening with this, but I will not be casting this on until I finish something because the whips are out of control. They're taking over my life. The whips have taken over my life, truly. So that's plans for this. This is future plans. And I really want to finish something so I can cast this on, so I can join the knit along, because so many people are like very far into it. I don't want to get left behind. I definitely have a little bit of fear of missing out over here. As far as acquisitions, I did show you a picture of the 2 skeins that I got from the Little Wolf Knits. I put in a picture because they came later that day, and that was really exciting. I already caked one of those up. I'm thinking I want to use it in a blanket. I think I've already talked about that as well. And the only other acquisition that I did pick up from my local yarn shop was another skein of the yarn I'm using to make my Midland cardigan. So I did pick up another skein of the West Yorkshire Spinners BFL fleece in the color Ravine, which I think is 1041. And that's because I don't think I have enough yarn. If I would have knit the size 3, I think I would have been just fine. But because I went up a size and knit the size 4, I'm going to use what I'm estimating to be probably about, I'll have about 55 grams left for the entire button band. And I might be able to do it with that, but I am scared, and I'd rather have a different dye lot to do, like a full skein, different dye lot to do the entirety of the button band versus me finishing 70% of the button band and then having to add in a new skein with a completely different dye lot. So I'm cutting my losses here. I did pick up a new skein of that, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So I'm ready to just finish the Midland. Other acquisitions that I have, let me take a drink. Not yarn related, but book related, is I did pick up the second book, Kingdom of Chaos. This is the sequel to, I'm totally blanking. Let me go get it. So this is the sequel to Creatures of Chaos, which I read last year about this time, actually, I think. It's a young adult fantasy. It has everything that you can think of, shifters and fae and dragons. And it was an indie author at the time. She was explaining the plot on TikTok, and I thought, okay, let me give this a shot. I thought the book was really cute, and what really sold me were these edges. So let me take off this jacket. Also, what a beautiful cover. The edges are, I hope you can see this, where it has a picture. So many goodies came with this. So there's a picture on the gilded edges, which I thought so fun, so cool. I don't see that very often. You see it in kids' books a lot, but not in like young adult fantasy novels, which I don't know, not my favorite genre to read anymore, but I do really enjoy reading books where relationships and, smut are not the forefront. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I just want smut, but I also enjoy like a coming of age story, and I think kind of that's what's going on here. I have not read the second book, but I'm excited to finally read the second book. So that's this, Kingdom of Chaos. I bought the deluxe edition for both of these just because I wanted to support the author. I thought that the first one is really well done, so I did buy the second one. There's little end papers, but it has the same thing where it has an image on both sides. I really hope that that's coming through. If not, I'll do some B-roll. And I don't know, I'm excited to read this. Generally not a huge fan of reading hardback books, especially when they're this beautiful. I just want to keep them pristine. But that's okay with this author because her books are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you're a Kindle Unlimited subscriber, you can definitely read these both. So again, Kingdom of Chaos, Creatures of Chaos. This is by Julie Hall. And I really recommend, if you're just looking for something cute and easy to read, there's a magical school, there's trials. So if that's something that, piques your interest, she's kind of in a love triangle, as much of a love triangle as you can have in a young adult. And I don't know, all around, just cute. I enjoy it. That's, I think, it for the acquisitions and for the works in progress. I'm going to show you a failed design. I was just really inspired by Valentine's Day for some reason. And I was thinking, okay, I would love to do a brioche design that looks like a heart. Well, that doesn't look like a heart now, does it? So that was the front. This was the back. I have since said no to this, back to the drawing board, but I have a whole year before Valentine's Day again, so I think I can perfect something. I'm on to something here. It's just not quite right. And that's okay. So maybe you'll see this in the future, maybe not. Not everything that I dream up works in practice. It looks good in my head, but it doesn't always look good in yarn. As far as goals are concerned, I do have quite a few goals this year that I really haven't started acting on. So the first thing I want to talk about before we get into hard and fast goals is kind of what this channel is and what this channel isn't. So for me, I use this as truly a digital diary. I have gone back and I have watched clips of my podcasts in the past, like get a feel for where I was in my knitting, what my initial reactions to my knitting is, how do I feel about it now, what trends am I seeing, kind of just being able to look back and see what I've accomplished, where I want to go, and look for any trends that may interest me or may direct my knitting in the future. And I really like that kind of macro look at things. Recently, I've been putting an emphasis on filming for specific projects because I think that that's really valuable for the knitting community as a whole, but also just for me. What did I do during this project? I don't always write these things in my Ravelry. So having like video evidence of what I'm doing, great. I can only keep so much in my head before it gets flushed for new information. And I'm pretty busy. I, have a full-time job that I work 40 to 60 hours a week, depending on what's going on. And I design socks on the side. I also run an entire household. So, sometimes I obviously should take better notes, but having it digitally is really useful to me. I want to keep both of those things. Like, that's the core of this channel. I like doing these podcasts where they're kind of long form content. I'm saying whatever comes to mind. I don't really have a script. I don't really have anything set. And then I have more content that is project specific. So as I finish these projects this year, you will see more of those project vlogs. I enjoy making them. I enjoy seeing how a project comes together from start to finish. And I really do hope to continue making that. Though hopefully with a lesser amount of projects so I can get it done a little bit quicker. What this channel isn't is I don't want to do pattern roundups and hot right nows or hot or nots. There's nothing wrong with that kind of content, and occasionally I do watch it, but that's just not, especially as a really small designer, I never, ever, ever want to pass judgments on someone else's like design or work. I will, of course, give you my opinions on patterns that I'm using or patterns that I've made, because I do have an opinion on that. I have bought the pattern, I've made it, and I have, finished the object generally. And so I do have an opinion on that, and I'm happy to share what I think about that with you. But looking at a picture or a description, I just don't feel comfortable with. So that's not the kind of content that you will see on my page. You will also not see any knitting related drama. I don't want to talk about that kind of thing on my page because, one, I never see it. I have trained the algorithm a little too well. So it's like months go by and then I'm like, oh, I didn't hear about that. And I click on one of those like knitting snark videos that you see on YouTube. And I'm like, wow, I had no clue that happened or whatever. So you won't see anything like that. What I hope to get into, though, moving forward that you haven't seen previously is maybe a little bit more educational content. I am not an expert by any means. I'm not a colorwork expert. I'm not a knitting expert. I'm not an expert in literally anything. But I do think that there's value in showing what or how I do certain things. Not because I do it a better way, not because of anything like that, but because sometimes we learn so differently from everybody else. So what I'm showing may be the way you need to consume information, or the way I show is not the way you need to consume information and somebody else does it better. But having different options for you to go to and look at, I think is really useful. So in these project vlogs, I would like to include clips of how I do certain techniques. So for example, today I'm going to start a project vlog about my Sock Madness socks. And I'm going to show exactly how I tension my yarn, exactly how I prefer to manage color dominance, how I do my stranded knitting, because maybe it's valuable for someone. You may be better at stranded knitting than I am. And you can say, oh, I've never done it like that, or this is the way I do it. And I think it's valuable community information where I can put something out and then we can create a discussion around it. So maybe you'll see that moving forward. Goals not related specifically to this channel, but just overarching knitting and crafting goals. I am terrible about posting on social media, on Instagram, on TikTok, stuff like that. And I'd really like to make this year better. I've not posted at all in like 6 months. And I want to, but there's like a mental block for me for some reason. So this year, at least in the first half of this year, I really want to overcome that and feel more comfortable posting on my social media. I would like to grow my community, if possible. I don't mean like thousands and thousands of viewers, but if I can create a space where people feel comfortable talking about knitting, asking questions, that's exactly what I want. Because when I was a newer knitter, I didn't know where to go for help. No one around me knit or craft or did anything really. And so having a place to go where you don't feel isolated, where you feel comfortable it is really what I want to focus on for this year. So building that community aspect where even though we have pretty solo hobbies, we all have a place where we feel really comfortable talking about our craft and being proud of what we make. Everybody is at a different level, and you should be celebrated where you're at in your craft and never feel like, okay, I can do better. Because I always feel like, oh, this is okay, but I can do better. And I can do better, but I should be able to take a step back and be like, this is great for where I'm at. And you should too. And I kind of want to create that space. So those are my goals. Those are my hopes. Those are my aspirations. I don't know if I will hit any of them. I think I want to really front load this year with a lot of knitting, a lot of crafting. And as the summer progresses, I will be very busy with my garden and tending to that. And I think I generally slow down in the summer anyway. I want to focus on reading because I really haven't had the attention span to read lately. And then pick it back up. So anyway, please let me know what's going on with you. I've rattled on about myself for far too long. What are you knitting on? What's your favorite color? What are your goals for this year? Anything you'd like to share, please pop it down below. I will be sure to comment back. So anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you so much for watching me ramble on about my hopes and dreams. And I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.